Imagine a shape. Imagine a color. Imagine virtually any form that life might assume, and you'll find it in the ocean. The sea is home to living diversity that transcends imagination, diversity that has inspired our creativity and intellect since we first became human. In 1853, master glass artisan Leopold Blaschke was sailing from Europe to the United States. The wind died off the Azores, leaving the ship becalmed for 2 weeks. Jellyfish and other creatures moving past the rail entranced Leopold. He drew them, determined to later capture the shining essence of the creatures in glass. Marine biologist Drew Harvell curates a collection of Blaschke glass masterpieces at Cornell University, where she's a professor in the Department of Ecology and Evolutionary Biology.
I've spent my life studying these details of invertebrate form and function, and it continues to amaze me, some of the details that I learn from looking at the models.
The Blaschke models were crafted not just for aesthetics, but to accurately represent individual species. Each color and shape, from red tentacle to blue eye spot, represents underlying biology. Every living form has function, many essential to the survival of the species. And each species has a role in maintaining a healthy ocean.
Biodiversity in our marine ecosystems provides proper functioning of those ecosystems and also insurance against environmental change.
Leopold Blaschke would have had difficulty imagining the changes to come to the ocean over the next century and a half. We've exponentially expanded human population, knowledge, and capabilities. But in the process, we've put the living diversity of the ocean at risk. The Blaschke models provide a time capsule to measure the ocean of today against that of Leopold's time. As complex and delicate as the glass models are, the living things they represent and the ecosystems these organisms are part of are infinitely more so. Now, scientists, artists, policymakers, everyone has a brief window of opportunity to take the knowledge and tools that we've acquired since Blaschke's time and apply our collective imagination to protecting this priceless, fragile legacy.
أما الحين مع الحرب سويها مع الحرب عملها للناس عشان الناس من القلة مش لاقي على ايش تخبز وعلى ايش تسوي الناس من عشان هيك عملهن للناس صارت على تطبخ على الطباخة تطبخ على الفرن تسوي كل حاجة على الفرن يعني ايش بدها تعمل العالم يعني ايش بدها تسوي ما تخلصوا هالحال هذا اللي احنا فيه
يا أحمد وعندنا هنا بنعمل كمان صاج برضه على النار عايدينا وكله بشغلنا على النار. طب ليش؟ عشان فيش غاز وبسبب عدم توفر الوقود واحنا هنا لاجئين جوا في المدارس وفيش غاز وفيش حاجه وحتى الحطب كان يعني بيقول كده بشكل لقيت صار ب10 وعندنا الطحين صار يبيعوا لنا اياه يعني غالي.
كل ساعه واقف اخواتك صار
jubilation in Guatemala's capital on Monday as anti-corruption crusader Bernardo Arevalo was sworn in as president. But the celebrations followed a turbulent inauguration. Proceedings were delayed for hours amid a last-ditch attempt made by his opponents in Congress to weaken his authority. After his swearing-in, Arevalo hailed the strength of Guatemala's democracy.
What might appear to be simply the outcome of a political process and formal changes in institutions is in reality the starting point for a transformation that has begun in each and every one of us.
Arevalo's unexpected election victory was seen as a watershed moment for Central America's most populous nation. The career diplomat, sociologist, and son of a former president won August elections by a landslide. But he's faced a series of legislative setbacks and efforts to undermine his victory, triggered by his opposers. Arevalo replaces one of his greatest political adversaries, conservative politician Alejandro Giammattei, whose government was engulfed in corruption scandals. Guatemala's Attorney General, a Giammattei ally, has made several attempts to hinder Arevalo's transition to the presidency. They include efforts to strip Arevalo and his deputy of legal immunity, trying to suspend his Semilla party, and annul the election. The Attorney General's office defends its actions as within the framework of Guatemala's laws. 65-year-old Arevalo has long cast himself as an advocate for democracy, a leader of a progressive movement set on reshaping a political landscape long dominated by right-wing parties. But the infighting has highlighted to many Guatemalans the limitations Arevalo's administration faces. Arevalo hopes to bring sweeping reforms and tackle the key drivers of migration to the United States, the rising cost of living and violence. But his government will also have to balance US demands to stem migration, amid record-high remittances that keep the local economy afloat.
It's a striking memorial called Ghost Bikes. 5 bikes, painted white down to the tires, are stacked on top of each other, a tribute to 5 dead bike riders. Fellow cyclists leave flowers for those struck down. They comfort each other, trying to comprehend the terrible loss. Grieving friends of the cyclists gave Inside Edition this video, taken just before the unthinkable tragedy. You can see the cyclists were all smiles, excited for the ride ahead. Moments after the video was taken, authorities say a box truck slammed into the back of the pack.
These 15 bicyclists that were hit by it, people are not moving. There's bodies on the ground.
The dead were identified as Michael Murray, triathlete Thomas Traeger, 48-year-old Ascoy Ahmet, 41-year-old Gerard Neva, and Aaron Ray. Fellow cyclist Michael Anderson watched her take her last breath.
I want you to know that I was with Aaron at the end. She was so strong. She fought so hard.
These 5 victims had several things in common. They loved riding bikes, especially long distances, and they were friends who every year joined about a dozen other cyclists on a 135-mile excursion called the Nipton Loop. The Nipton Loop is a route going from Las Vegas into California and back again. And this is where the last video of the cyclists was taken before the truck slammed into them. Now the biking community mourns the loss of these friends with a poignant ride around the Ghost Bike Memorial.
Hello, this is a free call from an inmate at Denver Sheriff's Department, County Jail.
Hi, good afternoon. How can I help you? Everyone who we post bond for is legally innocent.
I wonder if I qualify.
The letters come addressed to me, Dear Miss Elizabeth. They're often full of really difficult stories. 3 bonds preventing me from release, total $11,000. I've been arrested.
Take your hands off of me!
Went to law school. Of course, I would be directing a bail fund. When I'm looking at a jail roster and I'm seeing how many people we got out, all I can really see is how many people are still in.
Is there any way you guys can help me?
I get overwhelmed thinking about who's not going to be home for Christmas.
I saw Elizabeth paying someone's bond. This is the money for this one, this one, this one.
Let's start with Ms. Payne. Liberation is not a zero-sum game. I get more free. You get okay too.
seems like we can't do anything about this because plastic is just in every part of our life. Shoppers around the world buy 1 million plastic bottles every minute and use 5 trillion plastic grocery bags every single year. Now, we can reduce those, but it is the tiniest form of plastic that could be the sneakiest. While this plastic water bottle is easy to see, there's plenty of plastic you can't see. They're called micro and nanoplastics, and research is showing they are everywhere. One 2018 study revealed plastic particles were found in 93% of bottled water samples and 83% of tap water samples. Other research has shown these tiny plastics show up in beer, wine, rice, table salt, honey, and even fruits and vegetables. Some scientists estimate the average person might eat 5 grams of microplastics in a week. That's about the weight of a credit card. Inhaling airborne microplastics has been shown to cause respiratory problems, and research in mice suggests ingesting them can affect reproduction. Plastics also contain endocrine-disrupting chemicals, which can lead to various health problems. While there might be no way to completely avoid microplastics, experts say you can limit your exposure by using your own plastic-free containers, carry reusable totes instead of plastic bags, and ditching the plastic water bottles. All right, so here's some perspective for you. In 1950, about 1.7 million tons of synthetic plastic was made every single year. Today, it's more than 400 million tons annually.
I just like to get dirty. You know, I like having something to prove. I like being with the guys.
Tia Leonard has landed her dream job. Are you good at it?
I'm very good at what I do.
Lily Klein looks forward to punching in.
I've always enjoyed making things.
And Bailey Steele rarely gets stressed out at the office.
It's like meditation. You can just be quiet and breathe and do your thing.
This is what sparks their passion. Welding. Often seen as a man's job, these young women are torching that old glass ceiling.
On the production line, Rosie the Riveter steps in when the draftees step out.
80 years ago, there were women picking up the torch, thousands of them stepping up during World War II. But when the men returned, most departed. These 3, part of a new generation.
Only about 4% of welders right now are female. You are pioneers, all of you. When you were a kid, was this something you ever thought you might do?
God, no. I didn't think it was a woman's job because you don't see any women welders on TV or anywhere.
We talk with these trailblazers at Gannis, a custom furniture shop outside Detroit, where a lot of welding takes place. The only bathroom on the shop floor, a reminder of who mostly works in these jobs.
Do you feel that when you're first on the job, men tend to underestimate you and your abilities?
Absolutely.
Of course, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of you?
Mm-hmm.
All 3 are graduates of a Detroit program called Women Who Weld, an intense training course with an amazing track record.
There's 100% completion rate and 100% employment. I don't know any place else in the country that can make that claim.
I graduated from the program on a Friday, and I started a job on Monday.
The not-for-profit program was started 7 years ago by Samantha VibhuJi. So far, 400 women have graduated and landed jobs in the industry.
It's pretty amazing to watch people in as short of a year really just transform their entire lives.
And Samantha's even earned a spot on InStyle's list of the 50 most badass women, right next to Betty White and Helen Mirren.
Most people who try welding for the first time kind of have the same feeling of power. To be able to take 2 pieces of metal and join them is just a really powerful feeling. It's hard to describe.
But they caution, being a woman in a male-dominated world is not always easy.
And you are deemed fresh meat when you get there. There's not a lot of us, so you will get the catcalling. For me, I find that shutting it down right away really makes the difference.
What do you do?
Very politely, just I'm gonna stop you right there. I said, I'll give you this day because I know this is new for you. But this is my job, and I'm here for a reason. I don't want to hear it again.
Before I leave the door in the morning to go to work, I'm usually trying to be extremely cautious of the way that I'm presenting myself. You know, the last thing I want to do is become a distraction more than it already seems to be for a lot of people.
Because I'm a quiet person, I don't like to step on anybody's toes.
But when a man old enough to be her father made a pass,
I just had to step up and say, like, hey, don't do that, don't say that. That was the first time that I really stood up for myself, and I felt better for it at the end of the day.
To any girls in the audience who are listening to you, what would you say to them about the profession you've chosen?
Don't worry so much about how people are perceiving you. Don't let the judgment or questioning shrink you and your like desire to be a part of it.
It's okay to want to be something that isn't the norm. You know, it's okay to want to be a welder. It's okay to be in a room full of men and know what you're doing.
In his brief statement after court today, the former president again referred to a document he's been promoting lately that he says proves his allegations of voter fraud. It doesn't. The claims in the document are unproven or debunked. It's clear, though, that 3 years ago, millions of people did believe such lies. On January 6, thousands acted violently on it, and today, one of them, a 42-year-old grandmother, reported to a federal prison in West Virginia to begin serving a long sentence. CNN's Donnie Sullivan recently spoke with her about whether she still believes in the lies that turned her into a Capitol rioter.
How do you feel when you watch this?
You know, I think I'm more numb when I look at this stuff. It's like surreal to me. I mean, look how angry I look.
You'd admit this is a bad look.
Totally.
Yeah.
You know how dumb I feel when I look at this picture? Like, oh my goodness.
Rachel Powell, also known as the Pink Hat Lady, is about to begin a 5-year prison sentence for her role in the January 6 attack on the US Capitol. She's a mom of 8 and grandmother of 6, and she spent most of the last 3 years under home detention in rural Pennsylvania.
Why did you decide to go to DC on January 6?
Well, how often does a president ask you to come to a rally? Doesn't happen.
At some point, this goes from peaceful protest to you having an ice axe in your hand, breaking a window, trying to get into the Capitol. How did that happen?
It got violent, and it was violent for a while, and I don't think there was rational thinking in my head at that point. I didn't have an ice axe that passed through the crowd. Somebody put it in my hands, and it was only in my hands long enough to take out that window pane, and yet I've been charged with a deadly weapon.
Somebody give you the ice axe?
Yeah.
Who?
I don't know.
I grew up, and I guess you probably did too, of being told, you know, if a police officer tells you to do something, you should probably do it.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't happen that day, of course. The police were telling you guys to go away.
I never had an officer look at me and say, you need to leave or I'm going to arrest you.
Footage like this of Rachel, seen here in the fur hooded coat, pushing against a police line, and messages she posted on social media condoning violence ahead of January 6, were used by prosecutors to argue that Rachel wasn't just a peaceful protester who got caught up in the chaos of the day.
Do you regret that day?
I have a lot of remorse for ruining my family's life. I mean, in one day, I destroyed everything. For nothing. I don't have remorse for attending protests. I don't have remorse for speaking out and saying that I believe that the election is stolen. I do have remorse for breaking a window and destroying my whole family's life, and for thinking irrationally and not realizing, like, why don't you just sit down at this protest?
A federal judge convicted Rachel on 9 counts, including destruction of government property, obstruction of an official proceeding, and engaging in physical violence in a restricted building or grounds. Prosecutors said Rachel showed nothing but contempt for the court and legal system.
People watching this might say, well, you were duped by Trump and everybody around him, and the election wasn't really stolen, and you buying into this has kind of ruined your life. Do you ever feel a bit pissed off with Trump?
No.
Have you ever had a moment where you're like, you know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Biden actually won the election. Maybe I'm the conspiracy theorist.
No, not at all.
Okay, well,
Julie, thank you. That cold is also causing some big-time headaches for Chicago area owners of electric vehicles.
Yes, I never thought we'd say this, but it's true. As Dane Placco reports, the low temperatures have caused some headaches for owners looking to charge their cars.
Electric cars may be the way of the future, but it's clear there are some problems when it comes to charging them in Chicago's deep freeze.
Oh, we got a bunch of dead robots out here.
Dead robots. Dead Teslas packed the parking lot at this Tesla supercharging station in Oak Brook, a scene mirrored at other supercharging stations around the Chicago area.
Man, this is crazy. It's a disaster, seriously.
With temperatures falling into the negative double digits, these charging ports have stopped charging, leaving many Tesla owners stranded here in long lines since Sunday.
Nothing, no juice, it's still on 0%, and this is like 3 hours this morning being out here, after being out here 8 hours yesterday.
Has it been charging?
No, not at all.
It just isn't working?
At all. It's just frozen, and so I'm getting it towed to the Tesla service center because that's my only option at this point.
Adding to their frustration, they say, is that they're getting no help when they call Tesla for assistance.
No response from Tesla. We have been suffering since yesterday afternoon.
These are unusually cold temperatures, but do you find this acceptable?
No, not at all. Not really. I think it's less on the actual vehicle and more on the infrastructure.
Tesla has not responded to our emails for comment, but an automobile expert we talked to said that the owners of all EVs should hit the battery precondition button on their car before attempting to charge it in extremely cold weather. In Oak Brook, Dane Placco, Fox 32 Chicago.
अपनी रिकग्निशन को चाहता है, अपना प्रमाण चाहता है कि मैं हूं। जब भगवान ने भी सृष्टि की रचना की तो रचना कैसे हुई? अब पहले वर्णन आता है कि जब कुछ भी नहीं था तो हिरण्यगर्भ में भगवान शेष सैया में लेटे हुए थे, मतलब कोई हलचल नहीं थी, मतलब वर्ल्ड स्टैग्नेंट था, लेकिन फिर भी एक रूपरेखा तो थी प्रभु की, चाहे हम उसे निराकार कह ले, चाहे हमारी समझ से वो बाहर है, लेकिन एक एग्जिस्टेंस थी। और जब वो एग्जिस्टेंस थी तो उस एग्जिस्टेंस में बदलाव कैसे आया? भगवान आराम से लेटे हुए थे, मतलब ना आदम बना, ना हुआ बनी, ना ईव बनी, ना एडम बना। अब एडम की परेशानी तो ईव के आने के बाद शुरू हुई। भगवान ने एडम को नहीं बनाया होता, ईव भी नहीं बनती, पूरा संसार आराम से सुकून में आराम से अपनी ना पिन ड्रॉप साइलेंस में रहता। लेकिन भगवान के मन में भी एक इच्छा प्रकट हुई, एक सोच प्रकट हुई कि मैं हूं, लेकिन मुझे जानने वाला कौन है? और जब मुझे जानने वाला पैदा होगा तब लोग जानेंगे कि मैं कौन हूं। और जानने वाले को पैदा करने के लिए इतनी ये अपार ब्रह्मांड की रचना हुई, तत्वों की रचना हुई, गुणों की रचना हुई, और हर एक रूपरेखा में धीरे धीरे जो जीवन था एक सिंगुलर सेलुलर बीइंग से, जिसको अमीबा कहा जाता था, जिसमें एक सेल होता था, वहां से लाइफ का प्रोग्रेशन होते होते हम इतने कॉम्प्लेक्स मल्टी सेलुलर ऑर्गेनिज्म के रूप में हम आज संसार में जी रहे हैं, संसार को समझ रहे हैं, और एक कॉन्शियस बीइंग के रूप में हम एग्जिस्टेंस को समझ रहे हैं। लेकिन अगर हम एग्जिस्ट करते हैं तो हम प्रमाण चाहते हैं। प्रमाण आज के रूप में कैसे मिलेगा? कि आपने मैसेज भेजा तो लोगों ने उसको लाइक किया, तो इसका मतलब आप भेजने वाले आप हैं। तो हमने उस प्रमाण की रूपरेखा अलग कर दी। पहले हमारे ऋषि मुनि क्या करते थे? अपने आप को जानने में वो अपना प्रमाण मानते थे। इसलिए हर एक भक्ति का मार्ग अपने अंदर ही आकर के मतलब एक तरह से समा जाता था। ज्ञान मार्ग क्या है? आप ज्ञान को पढ़े, ज्ञान से अपनी वृद्धि करें, धीरे धीरे आपकी सोच इतनी प्योरीफाई होगी कि आप संसार की चीजों को न मांगते हुए आप संसार से परे होकर के जो वो आध्यात्मिक शक्ति है उसको जानने की चेष्टा रखेंगे, तो धीरे धीरे ज्ञान मार्ग में आपकी वृद्धि होगी।
The heated debate over Israel's military offensive in Gaza, claiming territory on the chilly streets of The Hague outside the International Court of Justice. rival demonstrations kept separate, with court proceedings broadcast on outdoor screens, as Israel answered the charge of genocide against Palestinians in Gaza, being leveled at it by South Africa.
The application and request should be dismissed for what they are, a libel designed to deny Israel the right to defend itself according to the law from the unprecedented terrorist onslaught it continues to face.
In Gaza, there were more funerals. The death toll now 23,700, according to the Hamas-run health ministry there. South Africa's justice minister says he's confident of their case.
And the law is on our side.
South Africa is asking the court to approve a number of temporary measures needed, it says, to prevent the situation on the ground from worsening. William Shabbos is a Canadian law professor.
All that South Africa has to do is establish there's a plausible case, and I think they've easily met that threshold.
Proving the genocide allegation, he says, will be more difficult and deliberations will take years.
Whether Israel's intent was actually the long-term, permanent displacement or destruction of the people of Gaza, or whether it was rather a much more limited military effort to eliminate a political and military foe.